This is I Rock with Rockstars, hosted by Ryan from iRock 93.5.
Look at that. We are joined by Dan from Disturbed. How are you today, man?
Doing great, man. How are you?
Yeah, I am good in a little bit of a different environment. Normally, I'm in a nice soundproof studio, but as you know, as a fellow Midwesterner, we're dealing with some snow.
Right.
So you're still in the Midwest. I mean, do you like it when it snows, or you're like, oh, this is when I wish I had that house in Florida?
Oh God, yeah, I know. Every winter I complain when this stuff happens, but I never get myself to leave. I've been here my whole life. I love it here. I love the people here. I got my family and friends are here, but I'm gonna complain every now and then and then just try to escape and take a trip here and there when I can.
Perfect. Well, you're about to go on a very large trip with an
Yeah.
anniversary tour coming up. We'll talk about that in a second here. But the first thing I wanted to get into is we have more Disturbed music coming.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. I felt like I had to look it up because I'm like, boy, didn't they just put out something new? I'm like, yes, I guess it's been 3 years. Holy cow, time zips by.
No, totally. Yeah, I know. It seems like it wasn't that long ago, but then I'm like, ah, yeah, that's been 3 years.
Yeah.
So
So long enough. Yep.
yeah.
So new song called I Will Not Break. I mean, just start off with, what's this song about? Where's the inspiration come from? Where's it going?
It came late in the recording process. We were out in LA this past September, October, and November, just getting the ball rolling. There was no really game plan of a time frame or deadline in any way. We just wanted to. We had some time off the road with only a handful of shows last fall, so we said let's get back in the room and get things going again and see how the creative process goes and everything was going great. Wrote a bunch of material, tracked it all, and then I Will Not Break kind of came late in the session. I just felt like I still had a lot left in me, and I was supposed to be tracking guitars for something else that day, and I just told my producer I felt really creative. I wanted to kind of go with this kind of old school. I wanted to give something to David that was going to hopefully trigger kind of that old school delivery out of David, and so we just kind of worked on this heavy groove, this beat, and I just started improvising over it and came up, as soon as the riff came around, we kind of all just looked at each other like, that's the one, that's the one. And then I just continued down that road and put together a rough structure. David wasn't there at the moment at the time. So we just kind of worked out the music and put together a rough structure. And when I seen him next, I kind of went over it with him and he connected with it and he kind of gave us those elements that we were looking for. The still melodic, but still that quick rapid fire syncopation at times and just that kind of delivery we were hoping to pull out of them. And we thought it would be a great lead off track to share with the fans.
Yeah, for sure. I like that you said you wanted an old school kind of feel because that was the second that I heard it, I'm like, this sounds like something from 25 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I came through I was going through the archives and going through a lot of stuff here, my memorabilia, gearing up for this 25th anniversary tour. And I came across some old demo tapes. I had actually cassette tapes, if people remember what those are. Uh, I had back in the day in the late 90s when we got David in the band, we would just set up a little cassette player in the back of the room and hit record and record us, a crappy version, but record our practices so we could, hear us just improvising ideas. And so I was kind of in that headspace because I was listening to these old riffs and these old deliveries of us just kind of improvising, like I said, and it just had me in that headspace. And I wanted to kind of, I actually one of the song ideas was a riff I pulled from 1998 off the demo, and I kind of slid it back into the mix. I have a history of doing that. I have a way of sneaking in old ideas and see if it triggers anybody, if they remember it and pick up on it, that it's been that long ago. But I try to get back into that headspace. And so even though the riff from I Will Not Break is brand new, I was kind of in the spirit of that old school Disturbed. And that's what we were hoping to do, trigger him in that kind of way.
I really like the fact because I think it's a bit of a lost art form. That opening instrumental riff groove, everything, it's about 60 seconds before the vocals kick in.
Yeah, I'm pretty
I
happy
dig
about
that.
that. I know, I like it. I always, I don't sit there in the moment when we're creating music. I don't sit there and think and worry about formula and time and how much there. That's I get it for the people in the radio world and the record label. They might have a certain formula they want, and I just figure I'm going to write the album I want to write, and if somebody chooses to edit it because it has to fit their format or time frame, then I've come to terms with that that's the way it is. Even though I hated like the in the very beginning, I remember in the beginning of our career when we walked into a radio station and they edited parts of Down with the Sickness, and I was pretty pissed off,
Sure.
because I'm like, what the hell, and we're younger and we're angry and we're pissed off, and I still want the album versions to be played, but I also realized that regardless of whatever that edit was at the time, the phone was still ringing off the walls for those radio stations because the
Mm.
hook was still there. They still got across and it got their attention, but I figure I'm gonna make the music I want for the album, you know, and if we have to raise the question of length and potential edits, then I'll leave that to them. But I'm always gonna, and I haven't had any resistance of fighting on what we put on the album. Um, you
And
know,
I would hope after 25 years of everything you guys have done that they're going to give you more of that grace.
Yeah, we're very lucky that we've haven't had that interference throughout our career because maybe a lot to do with, the sickness was successful pretty, right out the gate for us. So the record label just said, okay, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. We'll let you guys do what you're doing because obviously it's working for them as a business. It's working. So why mess with it? So we've always had that freedom to do the music we want to do. And
For
it's kind
sure.
of funny. I did get a little resistance one time with our song Inside the Fire when I first played that for my manager. And the bridge section had kind of this long instrumental part in a guitar solo. And there was a long period of time before I got back to the vocals. And he made the comment of like, oh, it's adventurous. And I'm like, what the F do you mean adventurous? What do you mean? And I was pissed off because I'm like thinking like, what do you mean by that? Adventurous good or adventurous bad? I go, don't be that guy wearing that the label hat right now.
Right.
Right now this is what we felt and this is what we want to do. So long story short, we fast forward and that song ended up being nominated for our first Grammy. So I was able to throw it back in his face and tell him, you know what, you stay in your lane and you do your job and let me do my job. So
Right. Yeah. I guess it worked out just fine then, huh?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I heard the album version. That's what they played for me, and I can tell you that's what we're gonna play here because yeah, I like, I'm a fan of the 10-minute Tool song, so I'll take the 5-minute Disturbed song as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I should mention we're talking about the new song that's coming out February 21st.
Mhm.
There's going to be an album after that, but the date on that is still a little up in the air.
It's up in the air. I mean, the material's there. We tracked everything. We just didn't. Right now, the focus has been the anniversary tour and this single. We figured let's get a single out to kind of go hand in hand with the tour of just another reason to talk about new Disturbed and the anniversary tour. But I think we're still a little ways off on figuring out our game plan of a full release and when that's going to be because we got to look at future when we plan on touring for that album as well. So,
Yep.
but the material's great. We're excited about it. We're pumped up. Just like every time we write new material, we're not gonna, do it if we didn't have the passion to keep doing it. So we're very excited about sharing this music with the fans.
Yeah, and that's a great thing. After 25 years, you still have that passion, you still have that creativity to say, "Hey, we know how to sound like Disturbed, but we're also going to keep doing it a little bit different." But speaking of 25 years, anniversary tour, that starts up here less than a month now.
Yeah,
I mean, first off, can you believe it's been 25 years?
no, it's unreal. It's
Whether you're
unreal.
in the band or a fan, you go, "Didn't I just buy that album?"
I know it's crazy because I could remember the days writing those songs, and now here we are. Well, when we wrote them, they were over 25 years when we first wrote
Sure.
them. It's just been an amazing journey. We're very grateful and fortunate to keep going strong and still love doing it.
Now the tour you're going to play. the Sickness, the full thing, and then you're going to do a second set with other just Disturbed hits.
Yeah.
So, have you ever done a tour where you've done an album front to back before?
No,
Okay.
other than when the Sickness was the only album we had out and we played every song. But this will be the first time of playing it in sequence of the album and then followed with the greatest hits set.
Okay. So, I'm obviously there's a lot of songs off that album since then, since it came out. You've been playing those for 25 years live.
Mhm.
There's other ones. Have you had to go back and be like, well, yeah, how do we do that one again?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there's some that I don't even know if John, our bass player, if he's even played since he's been in the band since 2004. And
Sure.
I think there's probably maybe two songs off of it that he's never played, and some that we haven't even played in probably, 12, 13, 14, 15 years even.
Right.
So it was nice to go back and revisit them. And I'm at home and just rehearsing on my own, just warming up and try not to overthink it and let the fingers and the muscle memory come back and just play it. And then we were out, all four of us got together for the first time last week. They came into town and the four of us played these songs, for the first time in a long time together. So it came together really good. I'm excited about it.
Nice. Now I know it's hard when you're the father of the music to choose your favorite, but do you have one you're most excited about as either the favorite or one that you're just like, I can't wait to get out there and play this one again over and over?
Um, yeah, I usually, yeah, it is hard to pick because they all bring in some level of excitement. As old as Down with the Sickness is, it's still exciting to play because the fans react. When they
Sure.
react, when they hear that opening drum beat, it still gives it new life for me every time we play it because I could feel the energy and the excitement when we do it. But I'm very much looking forward to playing I Will Not Break live because it's new. It's your new shiny toy. It's your brand new baby. It's something you want to share and show off and it's exciting. It's got such a heavy groove and we just played it like I said last week for the first time in rehearsals. This was the first time outside of the studio that we played it in rehearsals together. So it was really fun to get up there and just kind of turn the amps up and just let it blare through the PA and kill it. So we're
Nice.
very excited about bringing that live.
It sounds like a very good song. Obviously, with this tour, a little bit different because you're going to start it with track one from from the Sickness. But it sounds like a very good song to start off a concert with.
Yeah, I probably kind of had a little bit of that in mind when we were writing it because we like that kind of, as you mentioned in the start of the conversation, that kind of old school long intro. It's like our tribute to Metallica kind of long intro type of thing. And we were big, Tool fans as well of it, even though we're not an aggro artsy type band to have these long piece of work. But I thought I always wanted that song that had that kind of long intro that builds the tension, builds the,
Yeah.
you know. And so when we were doing it in the studio, I'm like, this is cool. We had a little bit of the church bells and a few things that kind of pop in there that sonically is kind of helping build that excitement.
And it's like a wrestler's intro. It's that walkout music.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So
Well, that one
yeah.
will work. Well, I mean, I could go through a whole list of favorites that I have from you guys, ones that I love and everything. Taking it back to the first album, I will say one that I gravitated to quickly was the remake of Shout. That was one of those as a littler one. I
Mhm.
liked the original song, and then as I got older, I heard this one, and I was more into metal at that time, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, this is a cool way to do this song. Uh,
Yeah.
and remakes are hard to do, but you guys have done a few of them, and how do you take a song like that and give it that spin to make it your own?
It's always tough, but I've always liked the challenge of it. I like taking a song that we respect and that we're fans of the original of, and how and just the thought process of like how do we take the song that was a hit and do our own twist to it and put our stamp on it and still pay respect to the original, but do enough of it to it's going to be come a little bit of our own, take a little bit of ownership over it. And so it was always fun to kind of rise to the challenge and do that. And a lot of things I look for first is just lyrically, is it something that we connect with? Do we like what they're saying? It doesn't always have to be that, but that's usually my first thought is like it's something, a message that we want to, deliver. And then what can I do with it musically? Is it too much of a trademark musical piece that I wouldn't want to touch, or I got to go drastically different, like we did with Sound of Silence,
Right.
But, but that, for example, I didn't feel that the Sound of Silence, guitar part, it was just kind of straight, folky, finger picking part. I didn't think it was too much of a trademark on guitar. I thought it was the trademark was the harmonies and the vocals between Simon and Garfunkel. But I felt like I could, take that musically in a whole different direction, which we did. But with Shout, it was, just adding a little bit of the syncopation, adding a little bit of the angst behind it. And I'll try to make this a quick story, but when we were demoing that song before we got the record deal, it was one of the demos that we were kind of shopping around after we did 2 3 song demos in the late 90s. And we were in the studio doing this version of Shout from Tears for Fears. And we took a break. We went out to dinner in Chicago that night. And the table next to us, there was Kurt Smith from Tears for Fears was at the table next to us. And I thought, oh my God, this is such a serendipity moment here. This is so
Right.
bizarre. And we told him, hey, we're this local band called Disturbed. We're from here in Chicago. We happen to be in the studio doing one of your songs. And we asked him, would you have any interest in hearing it? And he said yes. And he came like after dinner. It was late night. And I couldn't believe he said yes, because we're just, like I said, we weren't even signed. So we're just saying, hey, we're a local band. I'm like,
Right.
what guy's going to want to even bother with this? Yeah. And he did. And he showed up. We're calling our producer late night and we're asking him, and he had a little bit of a commute to make. And we're like, hey, Johnny, you got to open up the studio. You got to come out here. You won't believe it. Kurt Smith from Tears for Fears, he wants to hear what we're doing. And he came to the studio. We played it for him. And then he's like, and he just grinned, from ear to ear. He kind of looked at us and he wanted to hear it again. We played it again. And then he just turned around and he made some comment to the effect of like, we really brought out the angst of the lyrics, what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And obviously we're big fans of the band, and obviously they were more, in the pop rock world of things, and I respect them tremendously. But it was cool to feel like he gave us a good compliment on our version of it, like we got his blessing for it. So
100. Yeah. Getting the original artist to say, this was cool what you did with my baby. That's
yeah.
absolutely cool.
Yeah, the last thing you want is him to turn around and say, "What the f did you guys just do to my song?" And just goes
At that point in your career, all your doubts would have just.
Yeah, oh God, he just crushed us.
Well, we got just a couple minutes here left. So yeah, tour gets started here soon. I know we're sending people to Milwaukee to see you. I know there's a lot of people from the Quad Cities that are going to make the trip over to Chicago to see you guys. It's an awesome lineup with you and 3 Days Grace and Seven Dust on the front half. Then you got a different setup on the back half. But here around us, it'll be those 3 bands, which will be fantastic. And then you got the new song coming out February 21st. Again, if you're watching this after February 21st, go listen to the song now. Yeah, a lot going on in your life. There's one last thing that I wanted to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Disturbed halftime of the Super Bowl. How can we make that happen?
Right? Come on, it's time for some real hard rock or metal bands to do it. I know I've been seeing rumors with the Super Bowl being in San Francisco next year of people saying, it only seems right for Metallica to be on that one.
Only seems right.
So, we'll be more than happy to do it too. Don't get me wrong, but if they want to kick down that door first,
Sure.
We'll be happy to get in line to any time, But yeah, it would be nice to be for our genre of music to be acknowledged too. It's kind of funny because when you go to football games and a lot of these sporting events, they're mostly playing a lot of hard rock throughout the night.
They sure are.
You would think that they would, give us a little bit of recognition, show us a little love, and be part of the halftime show. When have you ever been to a big football game or anything where you haven't heard them playing Metallica or Tool or Disturbed or anybody in the stadium? So,
yeah, no, I know Texans used Rage Against the Machine for years, and I'd hope in Chicago they're blasting Disturbed. Come on, Bears need something anyways.
I know the Carolina Panthers used to come out to Down with the Sickness for quite a few years too. I've seen it, the Anaheim when the Angels were in Anaheim, the baseball team, used Down with the Sickness on a regular basis, and yeah, so I mean they use a lot of hard rock and metal bands in their games. Don't stop there. Don't stop at the
Right.
games. Show us some love.
I like it. Let's make it happen. Well, Dan, man, I appreciate the time. Again, have a great tour, and thank you for putting out more new music because it's an awesome one for sure.
All right, brother. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.